deep in Florida's Everglades where water meets sky in endless marsh. Some mysteries speak in frequencies only the lost can hear. On January 12, 2023, Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived at a remote research station 23 miles southeast of Ocoee, Florida, deep in the heart of the Everglades. The 42-year-old marine biologist from the University of Miami had secured a rare permit to conduct acoustic monitoring in one of the most pristine sections of the national park, where 10,000 islands meets the vast sawgrass marshes. Elena's mission was ambitious: to decode what she believed were complex communication patterns among the bottlenose dolphins that frequented the shallow waters between Chokoloskee Bay and the Gulf of Mexico. Her equipment represented the cutting edge of marine acoustics research: hydrophones capable of detecting frequencies as low as 5 Hz and as high as 200 kHz, far beyond the range of human hearing. The research station itself was modest: a weathered concrete block building on stilts, connected to a floating dock where Elena moored her 17-foot Boston whaler. Solar panels powered her computers and recording equipment. A single radio provided her only connection to the outside world, with mandatory check-ins every 6 hours with park headquarters. Within days of beginning her work, Elena documented vocalizations unlike anything in existing literature. The dolphins in this isolated pocket of the Everglades seemed to employ clicking patterns that varied not just by pod, but by time of day, tidal conditions, and weather patterns. More intriguingly, the animals appeared to respond differently to her hydrophones than dolphins studied elsewhere. Jimmy Cypress, a Seminole tribal member who served as Elena's guide and boat operator, was the first to notice the strange behavior. "The dolphins, they act indifferent around your machines," he told her during their 3rd week of fieldwork. "My grandfather used to talk about voices in the water. Said some places the water talks back. Elena initially dismissed such warnings as folklore, though she respected Jimmy's extensive knowledge of the Everglades ecosystem. The Cypress family had lived in this region for generations, long before it became a national park. Jimmy could navigate the maze of channels and creeks without GPS, reading subtle changes in watercolor and vegetation that revealed depth, current, and seasonal patterns. But as Elena's data accumulated, she began documenting phenomena that challenged her scientific training. On multiple occasions, her equipment registered what appeared to be responses to dolphin calls, low-frequency pulses that matched no known marine mammal signature. These mystery signals seemed to originate from deeper waters, sometimes appearing to answer dolphin vocalizations with mathematical precision. By early February, Elena was convinced she was documenting a breakthrough in marine communication research. Her excitement was evident in research notes found later at her station. February 8th, pattern recognition software confirms response intervals, averaging 1.3 seconds after dolphin signature whistles. Source unknown but consistent. This could revolutionize our understanding of cetacean intelligence. But what Elena didn't know was that she had less than a week remaining to pursue her groundbreaking research. The frequencies she was so eagerly documenting would soon lead her into a mystery far deeper than any scientific paper could ever explain. February 14th, 2023, began like any other day for Dr. Elena Vasquez. Her 6 a.m. radio check-in with park headquarters was routine and professional. Station 3 Alpha, this is Research 7, she reported to dispatcher Maria Santos. All equipment operational, weather clear, deploying hydrophone array at grid reference, Echo 47 at 630 hours. Maria Santos later recalled that Elena sounded excited, even energetic. She mentioned something about significant data patterns from the previous night's recordings. Said she wanted to test a theory about response intervals. Nothing seemed wrong. No? Elena's research boat departed the floating dock at 6:42 a.m., according to the automatic logging system that tracked all vessel movements in the restricted research zone. The Boston whaler headed northwest toward deeper water where her most intriguing recordings had originated. coordinates that placed her roughly 4 miles from the nearest marked channel, in an area locals called the Silent Zone for its unusual lack of bird activity. Jimmy Cypress was scheduled to assist with equipment deployment that morning, but had called in sick with what his wife described as bad dreams about the water spirits. Elena proceeded alone, something she had done many times before. Her GPS transponder showed normal movement patterns throughout the morning, consistent with someone methodically positioning hydrophones across a predetermined grid. Elena's noon check-in was brief, but normal. She reported deploying 6 hydrophones successfully and beginning to record baseline ambient sound. Water clarity excellent. Dolphin pod activity observed in Sector C, she transmitted. Equipment functioning normally. Data recording commenced at 1:47 hours. Her 3:47 p.m. transmission would be her last. Research 7 to Park Dispatch. Elena's voice crackled over the radio. I'm getting some unusual readings here. The pattern recognition software is showing responses that don't match any known marine mammal database. Dolphins stopped vocalizing completely about 20 minutes ago, but something else is... Maria, can you have someone check the Navy training schedules? There might be some kind of sonar interference. Maria Santos tried to respond, but received no answer. Multiple attempts to raise Elena on the radio throughout the evening went unanswered. As per protocol, Santos contacted Collier County Sheriff's Office at 8 p.m. when Elena missed her mandatory 6 p.m. check-in. Deputy Sheriff Carlos Mendez launched a search boat at first light on February 15th. What he found 26 minutes after sunrise defied explanation. Elena's Boston whaler floated empty in the exact location indicated by her GPS transponder. Both engines were running at idle speed, fuel tanks nearly full. Her equipment remained perfectly arranged and operational. It was like she just stepped off the boat, Mendez reported. Everything was exactly where it should be. Her coffee cup was still warm. Her notebook was open to the page she'd been writing on. The hydrophones were still recording. But Elena Vasquez was nowhere to be found. The most puzzling discovery came when investigators attempted to review Elena's data. Every memory card in her recording equipment had been corrupted. Not damaged, corrupted, as if subjected to a powerful electromagnetic field. The sophisticated pattern recognition software she'd been using showed only error messages. Months of acoustic research had been reduced to digital noise. Coast Guard Station Isla Morada launched a full search and rescue operation within hours. Helicopters scanned the vast expanse of sawgrass and mangrove islands. Divers explored the deeper channels where Elena's boat had been found. Search dogs tracked along the elevated roads and platforms that provided the only solid ground for miles. The search area encompassed over 300 square miles of some of the most challenging terrain in North America. Water depths varied from inches to 12 feet. Channels that appeared navigable could dead-end in impassable sawgrass. Islands that looked substantial on aerial photos proved to be floating mats of vegetation that couldn't support a person's weight. We had every resource available, Coast Guard Captain Rebecca Torres later explained. Fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, airboats, dive teams. We searched continuously for 72 hours. Dr. Vasquez simply wasn't there. As the initial search effort expanded, investigators began considering possibilities beyond a simple boating accident. Elena's life jacket remained in the boat. Her emergency beacon had never been activated. The shallow waters around her research site would have made drowning unlikely for an experienced swimmer and boater. Most disturbing was the condition of Elena's research station when investigators arrived. Nothing had been disturbed. Her personal belongings remained exactly as she'd left them. Her backup computer systems were operational, though they too showed signs of data corruption affecting only files created in the final week before her disappearance. The mystery of Dr. Elena Vasquez had begun. 3 days after Elena's disappearance, its specialist Marcus Webb arrived at the research station with equipment designed to recover data from corrupted storage systems. Webb, who specialized in digital forensics for the National Park Service, had seen his share of equipment failures in harsh environments. What he discovered in Elena's computers was unlike anything in his 15-year career. The corruption pattern was surgical, Webb later reported to investigators. Specific files had been altered, while others remained intact. It wasn't random electromagnetic interference or water damage. Something had selectively targeted her acoustic research data, while leaving administrative files completely untouched. Working methodically through Elena's backup systems, Webb managed to recover fragments from her cloud storage account that automatically uploaded data every 6 hours. The recovered files painted a disturbing picture of Elena's final days in the field. The earliest recovered recording, dated February 10th, captured what appeared to be normal dolphin communication patterns. Pod members exchanged signature whistles, mothers called to calves, and the complex clicking patterns of echolocation filled the underwater soundscape. Elena's voice provided commentary. 14 individuals confirmed, mixed age groups, hunting behavior typical for this time of year. But as the recordings progressed through February 11th and 12th, subtle changes became apparent. Dolphin vocalizations would begin normally, then suddenly cease mid-pattern. The silence that followed wasn't the natural quiet of animals moving to different areas. It was absolute, as if every living creature in the vicinity had simultaneously stopped making sound. During these periods of silence, Elena's hydrophones registered something else entirely. Low-frequency pulses, rhythmic and deliberate, seemed to emerge from deeper waters. The sounds occurred at intervals of exactly 1.3 seconds, just as Elena had noted in her research journal. But frequency analysis revealed something impossible. The pulses perfectly mimicked the acoustic signature of whatever dolphin had been vocalizing immediately before the silence began. It was like something was learning, Webb explained to the investigation team. Each time the dolphins made a sound, these mystery pulses would respond with an identical frequency pattern, but modified, cleaner, more precise, as if something was taking their communication and perfecting it. The recovered files from February 13th showed an escalation. Elena's excitement was audible in her commentary, but so was growing unease. The response patterns are becoming more complex, her voice recorded. Whatever is generating these signals is now combining elements from multiple dolphin signatures. It's creating new vocalizations that don't exist in nature. On February 14th, the day Elena vanished, her equipment captured the most disturbing evidence. The recording began normally, with Elena positioning her hydrophones for what she called her final test sequence. Dolphins could be heard in the distance, but their calls sounded agitated, almost frantic. Then, at 2:17 p.m., Elena's voice cut through the aquatic soundscape. My God, they're not just responding. They're initiating contact. The hydrophones registered a series of pulses unlike anything in the previous recordings. Complex, layered frequencies that seemed to form patterns resembling language. Elena's breathing became audible on the recording as she leaned closer to her monitoring equipment. The pattern recognition software. It's showing linguistic structures. Syntax died. Grammar. .2i. This isn't dolphin communication. This is something else. Something that's been listening to us as much as we've been listening to it. No. At 2:31 p.m., Elena's voice took on a tone of wonder mixed with terror. They're not dolphins. They're answering me. Direct responses to my equipment calibration signals. Whatever's down there has been studying our technology, learning how we communicate. And now it wants to talk. What? No? The recording captured Elena making adjustments to her equipment, fine-tuning frequencies in what appeared to be an attempt at two-way communication. For 17 minutes, the hydrophones registered an exchange unlike anything in marine biology literature. Deliberate signals from Elena's equipment answered by increasingly complex patterns from the mysterious source. Then at 3:23 p.m., Elena's voice changed completely. Wonder had been replaced by something approaching awe, or perhaps fear. It's not just responding to me. she whispered into her headset microphone. "It's calling me to come closer. The frequency pattern, it's mapped exactly to my location. It knows where I am." The final fragment of recovered audio, timestamped at 3:41 p.m., captured Elena's last recorded words. "I have to see what it is. The signal is moving, heading toward the deep channel. This could be the discovery of the century. I'm following the source." Engine noise followed as Elena apparently started her boat. The recording continued for another 6 minutes, capturing the sound of her motors and the splash of water against the hull. Then, abruptly, everything stopped. Not just the engines. Everything. Complete silence, as if all sound had been absorbed by something vast and patient. When the recording resumed 2 minutes later, only the gentle lapping of water against an empty boat could be heard. Elena Vasquez had vanished into that profound silence, leaving behind only questions that challenged everything science thought it knew about intelligence in the depths of the Everglades. 3 days after Elena's disappearance, Jimmy Cypress stood at the edge of the boat dock where he'd last seen the marine biologist. The morning mist hung low over the dark water, and somewhere in the distance, an anhinga called across the marsh. Jimmy had been guiding researchers through these waters for 15 years, but he'd never lost one before. As search teams continued their methodical sweep of the waterways, Jimmy found himself thinking about conversations he'd had with tribal elders over the years. Stories that most scientists dismissed as folklore, but that carried a weight of truth passed down through generations of his people. "My grandmother used to tell me about the water spirits," Jimmy explained to Detective Maria Santos during a recorded interview on February 19, 2023. She called them the mimics, voices that come up from the deep water, especially during certain moon phases. They sound like people you know, calling to you from just around the next bend. According to Jimmy, these weren't just children's stories. Seminole oral history contains specific warnings about certain areas of the Everglades, particularly during specific tidal conditions. The coordinates where Elena had been conducting her research fell directly within one of these traditional no-go zones. The old ones. They knew which waters to avoid, Jimmy continued. During the full moon, when the tide is turning, you don't go to the deep channels alone. You don't answer voices in the water, no matter how familiar they sound. Noon? Detective Santos initially approached these accounts with professional skepticism, but as she dug deeper into the historical record, a disturbing pattern emerged. The area where Elena vanished had claimed other researchers before. In 1987, marine biologist Dr. Robert Chen disappeared while studying manatee migration patterns. His boat was found drifting in the exact same channel where Elena's had been discovered. In 1994, acoustics researcher Patricia Williams vanished during a study of bird vocalizations. Her recording equipment was recovered, but the audio files contained only static. Most recently, in 2016, graduate student Michael Torres disappeared while collecting water samples for his dissertation. His dive gear was never found. Each disappearance occurred during similar lunar phases. Each victim was working alone, and in each case, the Seminole guides had warned against entering those particular waters. The Spanish explorers wrote about it too, Jimmy revealed. He produced photocopied pages from historical archives, documents that Detective Santos later verified with historians at the University of Miami. A 1566 expedition report described voices calling from the water at night, luring men to wade deeper into the marsh. 2 conquistadors were lost before the expedition leader ordered his men to avoid that section of the wetlands entirely. The tribal council's current chairman, Thomas Osceola, confirmed that certain areas of the Everglades remained off limits to tribal members during specific conditions. "It's not superstition," Osceola stated during a press conference on February 22. "It's survival knowledge. Our ancestors learned which places were safe and which weren't. That knowledge kept people alive for centuries." What struck investigators as particularly significant was the timing element. According to Seminole tradition, the water spirits were most active during the transition between tides, particularly when a full moon was approaching. Elena had vanished on February 14th, just 2 days before the full moon. Her final radio transmission had come at 3:47 p.m., precisely when the afternoon tide would have been turning. Jimmy pointed out another detail that had been overlooked in the initial search efforts. Dr. Vasquez was excited about something the last few days, he recalled. She kept saying the dolphins were responding to her. But I heard those recordings. Those weren't dolphin sounds I recognized, and I've been listening to them my whole life. The tribal guide described Elena's growing obsession with her audio recordings in the days leading up to her disappearance. She had become increasingly isolated, spending longer hours alone on the water, returning to the same coordinates repeatedly. She was hearing something out there, Jimmy said. Something that was calling to her. When Detective Santos asked why he hadn't spoken up sooner about the traditional warnings, Jimmy's response was sobering. Would you have listened? When scientists come out here, they think our stories are just folklore. They want facts they can measure, but some knowledge can't be put into charts and graphs. As the search for Elena entered its second week, the weight of this historical pattern became impossible to ignore. The Seminole Nation formally requested that search teams observe traditional protocols when entering certain areas of the wetlands. They provided maps marking locations where tribal members would not go during specific moon phases. The maps revealed something troubling. Every researcher who had disappeared in the Everglades over the past 4 decades had been working in areas marked as traditionally dangerous. Each disappearance occurred during lunar phases when tribal knowledge warned against entering those waters alone. Our ancestors didn't have hydrophones or GPS, Chairman Osceola explained. But they had something else. Generations of experience learning which places in these waters were safe and which demanded respect. Dr. Vasquez was brilliant, but she didn't know our warnings. She didn't understand that some discoveries come with a price. The question that haunted investigators was whether Elena Vasquez had stumbled upon something that had been claiming lives in these waters for centuries. And if so, whether the answers to her disappearance lay not in modern forensic science, but in the ancient wisdom of those who knew these waters best. By February 20th, 2023, the search for Dr. Elena Vasquez had become the largest missing person operation in the Florida Everglades since Hurricane Andrew. Coast Guard Station Isla Morada deployed 2 cutters and 3 helicopters, while the National Park Service contributed airboat teams and specialized swamp rescue units. Collier County Sheriff's Office coordinated over 200 volunteers, and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission provided dive teams and underwater sonar equipment. The scale of the operation was unprecedented. Search teams covered over 300 square miles of wetlands, following a grid pattern that ensured no area was overlooked. The challenging terrain meant that much of the search had to be conducted by airboat and helicopter, with teams moving methodically through sawgrass marshes and mangrove tunnels that hadn't seen human activity in decades. Coast Guard Captain Jennifer Walsh, who oversaw the maritime component of the search, described the operation to local media. "We're dealing with one of the most complex aquatic environments in North America," she explained during a press briefing on February 22nd. "The water depth varies dramatically. There are thousands of small islands and channels, and the ecosystem changes with every tide cycle. But we have the resources, and we're committed to finding answers." The underwater search proved particularly challenging. Specialized sonar teams from the Navy's Diving and Salvage Center deployed side-scan sonar and remotely operated vehicles, sweeping the deeper channels where Elena had been conducting her research. The murky water and thick-bottom sediment limited visibility to less than 3 feet, forcing divers to work primarily by touch. After 5 days of intensive underwater operations, the dive teams had found nothing. No trace of Elena, no additional equipment, no signs of struggle. The absence of evidence was becoming evidence itself. Meanwhile, Elena's disappearance had captured national attention. Major news networks sent crews to cover the story, drawn by the compelling combination of scientific mystery and the otherworldly landscape of the Everglades. The case was featured on CNN, NBC's Dateline, and multiple true crime podcasts. The media attention brought both resources and complications. Dozens of amateur investigators descended on the area, some with legitimate expertise, others chasing conspiracy theories. Psychics called in tips, UFO researchers suggested alien abduction, and internet forums buzzed with increasingly bizarre theories about Elena's fate. On February 25th, Elena's family arrived from her hometown of San Diego. Her sister, Dr. Carmen Vasquez Mills, offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to Elena's recovery. Elena dedicated her life to understanding the natural world, Carmen said during an emotional press conference. She wouldn't just disappear. Something happened out there, and we need to find out what. The reward announcement generated hundreds of tips, but most proved to be false leads or well-meaning speculation. A few seemed more promising. A fisherman reported seeing a woman matching Elena's description near Flamingo Marina on February 15th, but security cameras showed no evidence of her presence. An airboat tour guide claimed to have heard strange sounds coming from the area where Elena was last seen, but investigators couldn't verify the account. Volunteer searchers came from across South Florida. University of Miami marine science students joined park rangers in combing the shallow waters. Everglades city fishing guides used their intimate knowledge of the waterways to check remote locations that official search teams might have missed. Local Seminole tribal members participated despite their traditional reluctance to enter certain areas during the lunar phase when Elena disappeared. The most intensive search focused on the coordinates where Elena's boat had been found. Teams established a command post at the Flamingo Visitor Center and divided the surrounding area into numbered grid squares. Each square was searched systematically, both from the air and by ground teams moving through the difficult terrain. Search and rescue coordinator Tom Bradley, who had overseen hundreds of operations in his 20-year career, admitted this case was unlike anything he'd experienced. Usually, in wilderness searches, you find something, he told reporters. Clothing, equipment, tracks, some indication of what happened. Here, we have a person who seems to have simply vanished without leaving any trace whatsoever. The psychological toll on search teams became evident as the operation stretched into its third week. Elena's apparent vanishing defied logical explanation, and the vast, maze-like landscape of the Everglades seemed to swallow efforts to find answers. Several volunteers reported feeling disoriented in areas where they'd worked for years, and there were multiple incidents of search teams losing radio contact in locations with normally reliable communication. By early March, with no new evidence emerging, the active search was scaled back. Coast Guard helicopters continued periodic flights over the area, and park rangers incorporated the search into their regular patrols, but the massive coordinated effort was officially suspended. The failure to locate any trace of Elena Vasquez left investigators and her family grappling with an uncomfortable reality. In an age of GPS tracking, satellite imagery, and advanced forensic techniques, someone had managed to disappear completely in one of America's most studied ecosystems. The question that haunted everyone involved was whether they were looking for a victim of accident, foul play, or something else entirely. While search teams scoured the Everglades for physical evidence, a different kind of investigation was taking place in laboratories hundreds of miles away. Dr. Sarah Chen, a marine acoustics specialist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, had agreed to analyze the audio fragments recovered from Elena's backup systems. What she discovered would challenge everything investigators thought they knew about the case. "I've been studying marine mammal communication for 20 years, Doctor," Chen explained during a video conference with Detective Santos on March 8, 2023. "I've analyzed vocalizations from every known dolphin species in the Atlantic and Gulf regions. The sounds on Elena's recordings don't match any of them." The recovered audio files, though fragmented, contained several distinct anomalies. First, the dolphin vocalizations Elena had been recording showed characteristics that didn't correspond to bottlenose dolphins, the species most common in Everglades waters. The frequency patterns were lower, more complex, and exhibited what Dr. Chen described as almost conversational structures. More disturbing were the responses. Elena's hydrophone equipment had been programmed to play specific call sequences designed to elicit dolphin responses. In normal circumstances, dolphins might respond with similar calls, or might ignore human-generated sounds entirely. But in Elena's recordings, something was answering back with perfect acoustic matches to her test sequences, then elaborating on them in ways that suggested understanding rather than mere mimicry. "Listen to this, Doctor." Chen played a digitally enhanced clip during the conference call. Elena's voice could be heard in the background, speaking to her recording equipment. Testing sequence 7, harmonic progression in B-flat dotayoi. The hydrophone captured her artificial dolphin call, a complex whistle pattern lasting approximately 4 seconds. After a brief pause, an answering call emerged from the water, identical to Elena's test signal, but extended with additional harmonic variations that followed mathematically precise intervals. "That's not random, Doctor," Chen concluded. "Those harmonic progressions follow musical theory. Whatever was responding to Elena understood the structure of her test and was improving upon it." Nihira. The technical analysis revealed other unsettling details. Elena's equipment had been functioning perfectly at the time of the recordings. Teledyne Marine, the manufacturer of her hydrophone array, sent senior engineer David Park to Florida to examine the recovered devices. His report, filed with investigators on March 12th, confirmed that all systems had been operating within normal parameters. Dr. Vasquez was using our most advanced underwater acoustic monitoring system, Park stated. The equipment can detect and record sounds across frequencies ranging from 10 Hz to 150 kHz. It's designed to capture everything from whale songs to dolphin echolocation. If something was making sounds in those waters, our equipment would have recorded it. But the most significant discovery came from an unexpected source. Commander Lisa Rodriguez of the Naval Air Station Key West had been monitoring media coverage of Elena's disappearance when she recognized something in the audio analysis reports. She contacted investigators on March 15th with information that added a new dimension to the case. "Our sonar operators have been picking up anomalous acoustic signatures in that area for the past 18 months, Commander Rodriguez revealed during a classified briefing with federal investigators. "We initially attributed them to unknown geological activity or possibly uncharted underwater caverns. But the frequency patterns match what Dr. B. Chen found in the recovered recordings. According to naval records, sonar stations monitoring the waters around South Florida had detected periodic low-frequency pulses emanating from the area where Elena vanished. The pulses occurred in clusters, followed by periods of silence, then resumed with slight variations in pattern. Navy acoustic technicians had classified them as natural phenomena of unknown origin and flagged them for further study. What's unusual is that these signals appear to respond to naval sonar pings," Rodriguez continued. "When our submarines conduct training exercises in the area, the unknown signals increase in frequency and complexity. It's as if something down there is trying to communicate with our sonar systems." The revelation prompted investigators to examine whether Elena might have inadvertently interfered with classified naval operations. But Commander Rodriguez dismissed that possibility. Dr. Vasquez's research was conducted in open waters using civilian equipment. There's no way she could have compromised military operations or stumbled onto classified technology. Dr. Chen's analysis of the naval data revealed striking correlations with Elena's recordings. The low-frequency pulses detected by military sonar matched exactly with the anomalous sounds captured by Elena's hydrophones. But more significantly, the pattern of responses suggested a form of intelligence that could distinguish between different types of acoustic signals. "Look at this sequence, Doctor," Chen demonstrated during her final briefing. "When Elena plays her dolphin calls, the response mimics dolphin vocalizations. When naval sonar pings the area, the response mimics sonar signatures. Whatever is down there is adapting its communication method to match the technology being used. Ew. The implications were profound and deeply unsettling. Either some unknown species of marine life possessed unprecedented acoustic intelligence, or Elena's research had made contact with something that challenged conventional understanding of what lived in these waters. Investigators faced a troubling question. If Elena had been communicating with some form of intelligence in the Everglades waters, and if her final recording included her statement that they're answering me, then what had that intelligence been trying to tell her? And more ominously, had it convinced her to join them? The technical evidence provided no clear answers, only deepening questions that seemed to exist at the intersection of marine science, naval intelligence, and something that might lie beyond both. As Dr. Chen concluded in her final report, the audio evidence suggests Dr. Vasquez made contact with an unknown intelligence. Whether that intelligence was natural or artificial, terrestrial or otherwise, remains an open question. 18 months have passed since Dr. Elena Vasquez disappeared in the Florida Everglades. The official investigation remains open, but active search operations were suspended in August 2023. The case file at the Collier County Sheriff's Office has grown to over 2,000 pages, filled with witness statements, technical reports, search logs, and theories that range from plausible to extraordinary. Detective Maria Santos, who led the investigation, was promoted to sergeant in January 2024, but Elena's case continues to occupy her thoughts. "I've worked missing person cases for 12 years, she reflected during a recent interview. Usually you find answers, even if they're not the answers family members want to hear. This case is different. Every piece of evidence we gathered seemed to point toward something that shouldn't be possible." Not her side. The research station where Elena conducted her work has been abandoned. The University of Miami officially suspended the dolphin communication study in September 2023, citing safety concerns and the need to reassign resources. Elena's sophisticated hydrophone array was removed and returned to the manufacturer. The floating platform where she spent her final weeks now sits empty, slowly deteriorating in the harsh, subtropical environment. Jimmy Cypress continues to guide researchers and tourists through the Everglades, but he no longer takes clients to the coordinates where Elena vanished. "The water feels different there now," he explained. "Quieter somehow. Even the birds avoid that area during certain times of the month." Several other experienced guides have reported similar observations, noting that wildlife patterns in the region have changed since Elena's disappearance. The Seminole Nation has formally designated the area as temporarily restricted for tribal members. Chairman Thomas Osceola stated that traditional protocols require allowing the waters to rest after a significant disappearance. "Our ancestors knew that some losses disturb the balance," he said. "Time must pass before those waters are safe again." Elena's sister Carmen has refused to accept that her sister is dead. She hired private investigator Marcus Webb, a former Navy SEAL who specializes in missing person cases in remote locations. Webb spent 3 months investigating the case, interviewing witnesses, reviewing evidence, and conducting his own searches of the area. "I've worked cases in jungles, deserts, and mountains around the world," Webb reported. "People don't just vanish without leaving traces, but Elena Vasquez appears to have done exactly that. After exhausting all conventional explanations, I have to consider that we're dealing with something outside normal parameters." The $50,000 reward offered by Elena's family remains unclaimed. Despite hundreds of tips and numerous alleged sightings across Florida and beyond, no credible evidence of Elena's fate has emerged. The last confirmed sighting was by Jimmy Cypress on February 14, 2023, when he watched her boat disappear around a bend in Turner River. New researchers working in the Everglades have been briefed on Elena's case and advised to avoid the specific coordinates where she was last seen. Dr. Michael Harrison, who took over marine mammal research for the University of Miami, confirmed that his team deliberately excludes that area from their studies. "It's partly about safety protocols," he explained, "but also because the acoustic environment there seems to have been permanently altered." Indeed, Subsequent acoustic monitoring of the area has revealed significant changes. The low-frequency pulses detected by naval sonar operators have ceased. The complex dolphin vocalizations that Elena was studying are no longer present. According to Dr. Sarah Chen's latest report, the acoustic signature of those waters has returned to baseline levels typical of the region. Whatever Elena was communicating with appears to have gone silent. But Jimmy Cypress tells a different story. During full moon periods, particularly when the tide is turning, he reports hearing faint sounds carrying across the water from Elena's research area. Not dolphin calls or boat engines or bird cries, but something else. Something that sounds almost like human voices having a conversation just beyond the range of understanding. Sometimes I think I hear her, Jimmy admitted quietly. Dr. Vasquez, out there in the dark water, still talking to whatever she found. Still trying to understand what it was telling her. He paused, looking across the marsh toward the coordinates where Elena vanished. Maybe she did understand. Maybe that's why she's still out there. Then see. The case of Dr. Elena Vasquez has entered the folklore of the Everglades, joining centuries of stories about voices in the water and people who venture too far into places where the natural world operates by different rules. Park rangers include her story in safety briefings for new researchers. Local guides warn visitors about the dangers of working alone in remote areas. Yet questions persist that challenge everything we think we know about one of America's most studied ecosystems. What intelligence was Elena communicating with in those final days? Why did sophisticated recording equipment capture sounds that don't match any known marine life? How did naval sonar detect responses to acoustic signals that suggested understanding rather than mere animal instinct? Perhaps most troubling of all, if Elena discovered something extraordinary in those waters, something that required her to disappear to protect or join it, then are we alone in assuming her fate was tragic? The Florida Everglades keep their secrets well. In a landscape where sawgrass stretches to the horizon and dark water reflects endless sky, where the boundary between known and unknown remains as fluid as the tides themselves, the mystery of Dr. Elena Vasquez endures. Her voice, captured on those final recordings saying they're not dolphins. Their answer in me echoes across waters that have claimed others before her and may yet claim others still. Somewhere in the vast maze of channels and marshes, the frequency continues.